Good evening and welcome to another episode of My Humble Kitchen. My name is Leonard Lopez, and today what I want to make for you is something that is from my past. Basically what I mean is a dish that my mom used to make for me all the time. It's a Filipino dish. It's called chicken adobo. Now you can make adobo with any type of meat. Pork is very popular, chicken is the most popular, and I've even seen it done with fish, but I'm going to stick to chicken for today. And also this is basically the international dish of the Philippines. This is what they pride themselves on. So, what I have for you today is I have the chicken marinating in garlic, soy sauce, white wine vinegar, rice wine vinegar, garlic powder, also a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and coconut milk. And that's not exactly traditional in the area that my mom comes from, but it is traditional in other areas of the Philippines. So, I have our pan heating up with about 4 tablespoons of olive oil. So you want that to be a nice heat. And then we're going to set the chicken into the pan. And what we're going to do is we're going to brown the chicken first on all sides, and then we're going to separate it. That's the sound you want to hear when you're putting your protein into the pan, because that means one, your pan is hot, and two, you'll get a nice color on the outside of your chicken. Perfect. So I have about 8 pieces. So we're going to let that go ahead. I'm going to bring the flame up to in between medium and high. And then I'm going to cover it and let that simmer for about 5-6 minutes on each side. Okay, so while the chicken is simmering, we're going to actually cut an onion into quarters and slice it. This is going to go into the sauce of the onion. Of the stew. Just set that aside. It doesn't matter what size you slice the onions because they're going to reduce down and shrivel anyway because they're going to be incorporated into the sauce. And we're going to build the sauce in the pan. Sort of like the chicken cacciatore dish I did a couple of months ago. Okay, so the onions are done. Now we're going to check our chicken. Alright, starting to come along. That's a nice sizzle that you want to hear. Okay, a couple more minutes on that side and then we'll switch it over. But you can smell the flavors already in the kitchen. Okay, so while the chicken is still simmering, I finished cutting the onions. And what we're going to serve on the side is rice. Rice is prevalent in any type of Asian or Filipino cooking. So I have 3 cups of long grain white rice. Put that in a steamer, and then I have 3 cups of water. That's usually the rule of thumb. Every cup of rice gets a cup of water, especially when you're steaming it. When you're actually cooking it in a pan, it's different. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to our steamer, plug it in, and we're going to start that. And that's going to be the first step of cooking, which is steaming the rice. Okay, so I flip the chicken over, and this is the golden brown that you want to see. So that's perfect. So we're going to cook it on the other side for the next 5 minutes. And then we're going to take the chicken out and start our sauce. Okay, so I finished browning the chicken and we took it out and I set it aside and we're going to use that for later. Also, what I set aside was the rest of the marinade because we're actually going to add that into the sauce and that'll create a nice creamy texture for the sauce. So, let's start on our sauce. So I have the pan here that we were using to fry the chicken, and I have minced garlic. You can cut your own garlic if you like. The minced garlic I like because it comes with its own oil, and that actually makes it a lot very flavorful. So you're going to want about 2 tablespoons of the minced garlic. Okay. And you want to put that there. Bring that heat a little bit low. Then what you're going to want to do is put your sliced onions in, and this is the base of the sauce. Just the smell of that reminds me about my childhood when my mom was making this dish, and it would just let the onions and garlic sweat, and with that it just made the whole house smell like onions and garlic, and I love that smell. So what I'm gonna do is cover this to let the onions and garlic sweat for about 6 minutes until the onions become translucent and the garlic browns a little bit. Okay, so it's been about 6 minutes, and that's exactly the color that you want. You have the onions that are practically translucent, and you have the garlic that's browned. Just gonna give that a quick little toss. Perfect. Okay, so now we want to add the rest of our flavors, our things for the sauce. So I'm going to bring this up to a medium heat, and you're going to want 1/3 of a cup of rice vinegar. Okay, and then 2/3 of a cup of the soy sauce. You can use low sodium soy sauce. So you're basically going to want to make a whole cup, because you want 1/3 cup of rice wine vinegar, 1 cup of soy sauce, or 2/3 cup of the soy sauce. So 2/3 plus 1/3 equals a whole cup. A little bit of math right there for you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put that into the pan, and it sort of acts as a deglazing agent for the bottom of the pan, which is great. Okay, stir that in a little bit, and don't worry, it's not supposed to be a very, very saucy stew, so that amount is perfect. Then you want to add your dry seasoning. Obviously, salt. Now you don't need too much salt because you have soy sauce in here already. Soy sauce is a little bit salty. So you just want a little sprinkle, about a teaspoon. Pepper. Now this is, you want about a tablespoon of pepper. And garlic powder. Garlic powder is important because that's one of the prevalent flavors. You're going to want about 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. Okay, and you just let that in there. And then, if you remember, I said to keep the marinating liquid, and here's the reason why. That coconut milk is going to add creaminess to the dish. So what you're going to want to do is just add the rest of it. You don't want to overpower it with coconut milk because it's a very strong flavor, and our chicken is already marinated in the coconut milk. But this is about the color you want to see. You want to see a light brown color. The coconut milk will come together a little bit, so you just have to stir it in gently. So we're going to let that sit. And then, since that's starting to simmer, you're going to add 3 bay leaves. The bay leaves add a different flavor to the dish, but you're not going to eat the bay leaves because the bay leaves basically are inedible once cooked. So you don't want to eat them, but you do want to incorporate them for some flavor in the braising liquid, so to say. Okay? Let that simmer for a little bit, and while it's simmering, we're going to add our chicken. So we'll let that come up to a simmer, which is starting to right now. And then now we're going to add our chicken. So you just want to place the chicken in ever so lightly. Nah, you can place it in harsh if you'd like, as long as it's in the liquid. Now these chicken legs are half cooked, So it's not going to take that long to cook it, but you do want like a slow braise on it. So we're going to cook it on medium to low heat for about 30 to 35 minutes, and we're just going to let the chicken sit and braise in that liquid. And while this is done, our rice should almost be done, and then I'll show you how to make garlic fried rice, which is a great accompaniment to this dish. Okay, so about 30 minutes has passed by. So I'm going to go ahead and check the chicken, and that's looking great. That's the exact color that you want. It's a nice light brown, sort of almost like a brownish red color, which is perfect. And then the smell is wonderful. I wish you guys could smell it. But when you make it, you can. So we're going to cover that back up. Still going to need at least 10 more minutes. So while that's cooking, we're going to start on our garlic fried rice. Garlic fried rice is one of the side dishes that comes with this dish everywhere. It's a very big staple in Filipino cooking. So what we're going to do is put about 2 teaspoons of garlic, and put a little bit more, 2.5 teaspoons of garlic. I like the taste of garlic, so we're going to do 2.5 teaspoons of garlic. We're going to take our spoon, let that coat the bottom of the pan, and that sizzle is perfect. That's what you want to hear. And then, if you remember, in the beginning of the video, I started some rice. So this is the finished product. It's just steamed rice. And what you want to do is you want to finish cooking it in the garlic. You don't have to do all of it, but I'm cooking for 3, and they're going to bring it to lunch tomorrow for work, so we're going to make it all. Okay? So we'll fry the rice, basically, is what we're doing. So we're letting that go. Now you want to let it brown on the bottom first before you do any moving. So pat it down. To me, that helps it brown a little bit. This wants to be over medium flame. I'm going to let that go for a couple of seconds. I'm going to come back over to our chicken. I'm going to stir it a little bit, and that's the perfect simmer that you want to get going. See how the bay leaf, when we put it in, it was perfectly green, and now it's turning a different color? It's because all the flavor is going into the actual sauce. So that's good. Recover that. Okay. So this has been browning. Then you want to turn it. You want to mix all the garlic into the rice. Perfect. See, garlic tends to clump up together, so you want to make sure that you mix it and incorporate it to all aspects of the rice so that it's a nice even flavor. And even this is starting to smell very, very good. And this is why it's called comfort food, because all the flavors are bold and rich, and sometimes on a nice cool night, or even when you're down or when you had a bad day, a comforting dish like this is perfect to have. So we're going to let that brown a little bit more. We're going to let this go for another 5-6 minutes, and then we're going to plate our food and we're done.